Hello
Oh,
and happy Thursday. We are live. Thank you, Heather, for joining us today. How are you?
I'm awesome, awesome. So glad to be here with you, Tawana.
I am so glad you are here with me. This is so exciting. And this topic, I'm like, ooh, I can hardly wait for us to start conversing. I really can't. Let's see. I'm going to refresh on this end. That way I don't miss anybody's comments. I'm going to try not to anyway, y'all. I try to keep up with it.
Mm.
And Heather, let me know when you can see the link so that if you'd like to share it, you can share it on your end and then we'll
I'm
get
sharing it
started.
from Facebook. I don't see it on my phone, but on Facebook
Okay.
I see it.
Awesome. That's good.
So
I think we're good to
yeah,
go. All right.
yeah,
Oh, there's up.
yeah.
All right. I think we're good to go.
It's up.
Okay. So, just like all the other shows or talks, if you will, I only have one scripted question. And that
Yes.
is when you hear the word transcend, Heather, what comes to mind?
All right. Well, when I hear the word transcend, I think living above the
Ooh,
circumstances, right?
yeah.
So you're out, like, you know, there's the box and you're living outside of it in whatever sphere that might suit you in. So in particular, with health, when it comes to transcend, it's just, defying the diagnosis or,
Ooh,
defying how you feel, just transcend, live above those things, supernaturally too, because honestly, most times we don't have it within us to just move where we're not feeling well, but to transcend means to live in that place outside of ourselves.
that's so rich. You already going. Listen, okay, let's. Whew, I'm I'm pumped.
It's
So I
okay.
do. I don't want to miss the opportunity. I've gotten the wonderful opportunity to know you and talk with you. In the summertime, we actually met through a
Yes.
mutual community here on Facebook, and you shared your wonderful story and your family with me. And it's just been an enriching experience to know you, Heather, and to learn about your journey. So please share with others who you are, how you serve, and we're gonna get into this topic that we have tonight.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks. It's been so good knowing you too. You're such a positive force of influence in my life and everyone else's that you touch. So I'm grateful for the light that you shine around you. Um, well, I am a health and wellness coach, and I help women with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism as a result of it to just, manage their symptoms, reverse the condition, and put it in remission. So, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune thyroid disease in which your thyroid does not produce as much thyroid hormone as it should. And the thyroid hormone affects so many things in our body. It affects our metabolism. So many people who suffer with hypothyroidism tend to gain weight and have difficulty losing it no matter what they try. You go on all the diets and eat all the celery sticks, and you still can't lose weight. Things like fatigue, it affects your energy. And so you're just tired all the time. You go to sleep for, 10, 12 hours. You spend the whole weekend sleeping to go, to be ready for work on Monday, and you still don't feel rested, things of that sort. And then it also affects your brain. And those are the top three issues that women complain about, weight gain, fatigue, and having no mental um, clarity, or very little mental clarity most times. And so those are the symptoms that I dealt with. But I just thought they were normal life for a time. And when I was pregnant with my third child, this was 7 years ago, I went to shower one morning and I just felt a little lump on my neck. And I was like, what is this? So
Mhm.
I went to my midwife and she said, oh, yes, that's your thyroid. That's your thyroid.
Wow.
And you need to go see an endocrinologist because it's swollen and, that could be an issue. And
Okay.
so I went to this doctor and he ran a battery of tests and came back with I had fibroids, I have PCOS, I was pre-diabetic. I had so many things going on inside of my body. I had this autoimmune
Wow.
thyroid disease that had been there for some time because I was feeling all these things. But no doctor had ever checked me to see whether my thyroid was, was behaving well. And so, yeah, so that was that. So at least I was happy, I got the
Right.
diagnosis. But unfortunately for most of us, that's just the beginning
That's
of
it.
our journey, right? So I got the
Right.
diagnosis, but it took 3 years of, symptoms going from bad to worse.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually 2018, I got to my breaking point. I was drinking so much coffee. I wasn't functioning, and I went to my endo and said, "Listen, this is not working. I can't function. I have to take care of my kids. I'm no good to
Mm-hmm.
my husband. What's going on?" And his only answer for me was, "Well, you're just going to have to go ahead and get used to a life of using stimulants. Just drink coffee all day long, for the rest of your life." And at the time I was, what, 37, and I was like, "This is, are you serious? I'm supposed to live like this for 37 years? This is crazy." But during that time, I'm a researcher, and during that time, those 3 years, I had spent a lot of time, researching why, how this affects my body and what's going on. And I would take suggestions to him, can we try this? Can we try this? And he would say, your diet has nothing to do with your condition, or no, that's not going to work. And so I didn't try any of those things. But in 2018, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and try some of these things. When I left that appointment, when he said I had to live on coffee for the rest of my life, I said, I'm gonna go ahead and try. And so I did. I tried. First, I did an elimination diet. And within
Mm-hmm.
3 days, I kid you not, I was a completely different human being. I could get off my couch. I didn't, I went, cold turkey with, not drinking the coffee. And I got rid of, all the problematic foods that I thought were healthy for me. And
Yeah.
within 3 days, I was a different person. And so I went ahead and got, certified as a health coach. And I just kept on learning and growing, and said, I need to teach people that their diet is part of what's killing them, right? Like,
Right.
your life can be so different if you just changed your food. And it's hard initially, especially when you have a love affair with food like I did, or like I do. It's still a present love.
Right.
So it can be hard, but if it's killing you, we just have to find a better way
Yeah.
to get around it. So that's the long version of why I do what I do, and it's something I'm very passionate about. And turns out lots of women need this help.
Yes, lots of women need this help. And so if you'll give us a little bit, if you don't mind, when you talk about, diet and nutrition, food, right? We use those words interchangeably, even though they're not synonymous.
Right, right.
What were some foods that you thought were good for you that you realized were not?
Right, right. That's a good question. So, and I really don't like giving nutrition advice because it's so individualistic,
Correct.
right?
Disclaimer.
So, yeah,
It
yeah,
is disclaimer. We
yeah.
are not
It's very,
your
we're not the
physicians.
same. Yes,
Everyone's needs are different, but Heather is specifically speaking about some, nutritional elements that she was
right,
consuming that she thought would benefit her and
right,
found
right.
out that they didn't. Okay.
Yes, yes. So in my case, I did nutrition in college. I did a nutrition course in college, and I had always been very health conscious, right? And I had
Mm-hmm.
all these, crunchy babies, and I was living my crunchy life. And so one of the things that I was doing was I was eating a lot of, well, not a lot, but for breakfast I'd have things like sprouted grain, Ezekiel bread, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a gluten intolerance, and I didn't know,
Oh,
but so it
wow.
was it was healthier because it was sprouted grain, but it wasn't good for me, right?
Right.
I did a lot of things with, I drink, like the raw cow's milk and the raw dairy and, all that stuff. But again, I had a dairy intolerance, so it wasn't working for my body. It wasn't good for me.
Yeah.
But added to that, I had glucose issues. So things like oatmeal that I would eat for breakfast in the morning,
Yeah.
that I went to my nutritionist and she said, have some oatmeal and have a glass of skim milk with it. And by the way, that's pure sugar. But that's as an aside.
Right.
So I would do those things, and I was getting sicker and sicker. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I found that I needed to address the my fat intake. I wasn't eating enough fat because low fat was the craze of the time, and I was eating low fat and was making myself sick. I also didn't. I was having too many carbs. I was having too many carbs, even if they were perceived as healthy carbs, with the
Healthy
sprouted
carbs.
grain and
Mm-hmm.
the oatmeal and all that stuff. And so I just replaced those foods with um, lower caloric foods, higher fiber, more nutrient dense foods, foods that are going to give me more, vitamins and minerals so that my body
Yeah.
can function. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
happened, so I tended to eat more, leafy greens and lots of healthy fat, olive oil, coconut oil, butter. Let me tell you, there is nothing wrong with butter. I don't care what they tell you. There is nothing wrong with butter.
Butter, not margarine.
No, butter, butter. Right. I grew up eating, I can't believe it's not butter, girl. And I couldn't believe it really was a butter. But it's not
It
butter.
tastes
It
like
tastes so
butter.
good. But yeah. So yeah, these are the little things that
Mm,
that we do thinking that they're healthy and they're not. I don't have anything
and
against oatmeal, but
right.
the trouble is the serving is so small. Like most of us eat these healthy foods, but we don't look at the nutrition label, right?
Mm-mm.
So an oatmeal serving is really small. And so, but most people aren't eating a quarter cup. Just like I
No.
tell my clients, there's nothing wrong with pasta. But if you read that pasta box, that 1 pound of pasta is supposed to have you 8 servings. But ain't nobody eating 8 servings out of that one box of pasta, right? So we're
Right.
eating too much of these things, and they're causing us to be, chronically ill. So the
And
focus for me has just been more on eating healthy fats and
okay.
eating, quality protein, because that's part of what my body, needs to function well, and also more plant-based, but like, leafy greens and a diverse collection of plants. So I eat, lots of, I go to the Asian market, eat lots of Asian, veggies to add that to
Uh-huh.
my, to my diet, just some variety. Yeah. So, and my whole family's on board now because, what are they gonna do? Feed themselves? So,
Right. They're gonna get on board. They're
right,
gonna get on board. So you answered one of the questions I was going to ask. What were, some of the things that you ended up moving towards once you were able
right.
to identify what really wasn't serving you well?
Mhm.
Can we talk about some of the symptoms that you had that triggered you
Yeah,
to go on this search to figure out what in the world is
right.
wrong? Right? Like I'm eating
Yeah,
well, I'm doing all the things. Why am I not
right.
feeling great?
Right.
What were some of the
Well,
things
to
that
be
you were
fair, I wasn't doing all the things. And see, that's the thing. So
okay.
when you get sick, right? When you get, doctor says you have cancer, doctor says you have diabetes, doctor says you have the whatever, then you expect that the doctor's gonna cure you, right? They're gonna give you a healing. And so I got my diagnosis, well, you have, thyroid disease, and so you take this thyroid hormone. And my doctor went as far as to say, well, at the time, you see, now I have this huge goiter, but at the time, it was barely visible. If it wasn't, I could only feel it with my hand.
Okay.
And he said, well, this medication is going to retard the growth of your nodule and also, shrink it altogether. Well, despite me following his instructions, it's been 6 years of this thing just, keep on growing. But what I have learned is that there is more to health, whether it's thyroid health or any other autoimmune disease, than just
Mhm.
taking the medication. The medication um, addresses the symptoms, but doesn't address the root cause. Why are we really sick? And so, in my case, a lot of what was wrong with me is that I had, an inflammatory diet. The things that I was eating, my body thought they were the enemy, so it was causing, it was producing, uh, uh, an inflammatory response, right? But added to that, my other number one stressor was stress. Um,
Mm.
my body, the thyroid, and everybody knows stress is bad for them, but stress has a really, 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 really negative effect in almost every health condition, whether it's heart disease, high blood pressure, autoimmune disease, in this case, Hashimoto's. And I wasn't doing very well with managing my stress.
Mm.
When I would go to the doctor, he would say to me all the time, "Oh, that there's nothing going on. You just have a lot of responsibility." Well, I was married. I homeschooled the kids. We had 3 kids. Um, well, now we have 4, and to me, it was just life. Like, this is the stress. This
Yeah.
is just life. So I wasn't very good with self-care. I wasn't good with taking the time to reflect and just taking the time to say no. I was very involved in my church. I'm
Mhm.
the one who, I'd plan all the family events. I'd plan the Christmases and I'd plan the Thanksgiving. And we have like 50 people in our family locally. So, but
Wow.
I was that person. I take everything on. So part of healing from this disease, as the same with every other one, is that you have to realize what doesn't serve you. What are you
Uh-huh.
doing in your life that caused you to end up here? And I had been dealing with these symptoms since college. I figured everybody was like really tired after staying up late to study for an exam. But
Mm-hmm.
my tired didn't go away after sleeping the next day or the day after that. I had issues with like carpal tunnel ever since I was 13 years old. That was also another symptom um, of hypothyroidism. My hair was falling out, girl. I had no hairline,
Mm-hmm.
a few years
And you
ago.
got a good one
Um,
now.
got a good one now, right? So that's part of the healing. Things like your eyebrows. One of the ways to know that you have hypothyroid is your eyebrows start to thin out. I don't know if you can see, but mine is
Really?
growing back, but there's barely any. And I purposely don't shave my eyebrows so that people can see, how it grows. So it's thick in the middle, but there's nothing at the end, So, things like those.
Oh.
Your hair is falling out, no eyebrows, joint pain, the fatigue, the brain fog, the excessive weight gain, despite everything. And so, those are some symptoms that you probably have something going on with your thyroid. But again, that can be addressed by taking a hormone, but that doesn't get rid of why your thyroid is broken. Why is it acting like it? So
Mm-hmm.
again, in my case, it was stress. A big part of it was stress. And so once I adjusted my diet, I started losing the weight. You know, I lost 40 pounds in a very short time. That was 2018. Last year I had a baby, went up to close to 200 pounds, and I'm back down to 150 again, right? In a matter of months. So I've learned how to lose weight despite having, hypothyroidism. And that's what I teach my clients. But you have to pay attention to your body, and you have to, address the stress. Some of us also are affected by things like toxins. So and this is part of why we shouldn't be eating, processed food. You're poisoning our bodies with, the bad oils from the fast food restaurant, eating lots of soybean products, or sometimes they go plant-based, but they're eating a lot of soy. And soy
Mm-hmm.
does a lot of, negative things to our thyroid, when it's not properly prepared. So a lot of people will say, well, the people in Asia eat soy. Yeah, but they don't eat it like we do. It's generally fermented, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
prepared in different ways. So, it's about how we, it's not just, you have to know how to properly prepare the food, in order for it to be nutritious in our bodies. So, I was going to say something else. I don't remember what I was going to say.
Kadisha's in the chat saying, "Speak."
Yeah.
Yes, this is so
Yeah.
good. Okay, so we've talked about your personal challenges. Like, you are a warrior. I love your intro particularly. So I'm approaching Transcend with Bootstrap Dreams with a little bit
Yes.
more intent, because when this journey started, it wasn't a whole lot about business and a whole lot about promotion and getting all
Right.
this in. It was like good people, good conversation, needed energy, and needed to talk about those things that don't get talked about enough,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so as it gained momentum, and I received inquiries and more people wanting to get on and share, when I was preparing for today and I was writing the post, I had a little snippet,
I
and
saw
then
that.
I backed up and I was like, you know what? There's more about this that can be said, because Heather and I have talked. Heather
Right.
and
Right.
I have talked about this, and you put out enough. I mean, not enough. There's never enough, education, but you've put out so much information, so many teachings, and so I went further with this one than I have before, and I'm really excited about it because as women, particularly,
Mhm.
we suffer in silence about so
Yes.
many things. And I know
Yes.
I have I've had the grace, if you will, to not experience some of the things, like this month you've got the breast cancer awareness, and you've got
Yes.
of course, domestic violence, and I've been a witness
Hmm.
to that through my mother. And then you've got the pregnancy loss awareness. I mean,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
has just opened my
Hmm.
eyes to, again, people that you're with, you're by every single day, and you wouldn't know if they
Right.
weren't comfortable sharing, right? And so
That's
now
true.
we're getting into this space where people are getting more comfortable sharing. And I've always
Mhm.
been committed to sharing my process. Bailey, get down. All right,
Try to
thank you,
keep a straight
ma'am.
face.
Yes, where I've always been committed to sharing my process and not just my wins. And I use my personal story as a part of my business, right? It's
Right.
a part of
Right.
my mission for women in business. And so when you talk about, your battle and your war, you being a warrior,
Mhm.
overcoming your many illnesses that you've had, and the Hashimoto's, and the thyroid, all those things, where did you pull the strength and the energy? And I know we mentioned at the very beginning, like supernatural, right? But what
Yes.
was your motivation to say, I've got to change something?
Girl,
I've
let me
got to
tell
change
you.
something.
Yeah. I mean, it's really selfish, right? I'm not going to give you any kind of, platitudes and
Well, let's just
say,
start with us first, though.
yeah, I'm not going to say, well, it's because of my kids. No, it wasn't. Um, yeah, yes, I wanted to feel great for them for sure, but let me tell you, I felt so terrible. It was it was like, I don't know if you've ever taken something like Benadryl or Zyrtec, and that hazy feeling that comes with it. When I
Yes.
take those kind of pills, it just makes me feel terrible. Like I just get, I can't drink either, because if I, like, I'm out of it.
Yeah.
That's how I was living my life, day after day after day. I was in pain. I was miserable. And it like, I don't know. But the other thing that happened, I was reflecting the other day, is that when I was in college, I remember that when I was in college, I was always a very motivated person. I was,
Hmm.
I'm a go-getter and all that stuff, and this disease just took that away from me.
Yeah.
I stopped working when I was pregnant with my second child. I couldn't go back to work. I used to run a real estate law firm. I couldn't function. I was forgetting things. It was just crazy. I couldn't function. So I felt really terrible. And so I needed to just, feel better. And in process of
Yes.
feeling better, part of what happened is I started to realize that I wasn't really serving anyone in this
Mm.
state. I wasn't being helpful to me, but I couldn't help my kids with anything. My
Yeah.
husband had taken over much of the cooking. Um, and the household responsibilities. So he was working and taking care of the home, in
Hmm.
many, because I wasn't doing well, and I didn't feel worthwhile. I didn't feel like I was, living my purpose, if that made any
Yeah.
sense. So part of me digging myself out of that hole was just to, you know, serve that calling in me to do something more with my life. Like I felt like this wasn't it. This can't possibly be it. There was so much, passion and fervor inside of me as a youth. Where did that go? And that's part of what
Yeah.
happens with us when we do get sick, is, it just changes us in so many ways. And the challenge is to accept a diagnosis, but not identify with it. Like,
Ooh.
don't say this is who I am. And I had to learn how to say, this is not who I am. I am not going to be
Yes.
defeated by this. And who I am is more than this. But part of my inspiration too is I have a really, really, really supportive family. And I was reflecting the other day on, I talk with so many women with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, and they don't have any hope, right? And my mother, is her middle name is Hope. And
Mm.
I was talking with a lady, and I was saying to her, there's hope. And this is another story for another day. But my mom, when she was about my age, she was in an accident. Well, not an accident. She was assaulted by a man who like went with a machete and like chopped her up all over her body. And so it was a near death experience. She was hospitalized for a number of weeks. Um, and like I said, close to death, right? And I remember, so as a result, she has, physical deformities. She's handicapped. There are things that she should not be able to do. She shouldn't be able to drive because she can't lift her hand above a certain height, but she can drive. She should not be able to groom herself because she can't move her hands, but she can do it. And all these things. And I was saying, I've never seen her as a handicap, but she
Mm-hmm.
is. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because of how she has chosen to live her life. And so I asked her
Jesus.
the other day, and I said, when you were in that hospital bed, because it was before I was born, it was, a little bit before I was born. I said, when you were in the hospital bed, did you ever think you weren't going to make it? And she said, no. It was almost like, that's the craziest thing ever, right? She's like,
Yes.
no. She said, I knew that if I could get to the hospital, I'd be okay. And so she got to the
Wow.
hospital and she was okay. But that's exactly it, right? No matter what your diagnosis is, you have to kind of believe inside of you that there is better, that there is more. and just have that faith and act on it. Um, and as a Christian, I kind of believe that, you know, God does control our destiny. So we don't know
Hmm.
all the answers, right?
Right.
But He
Right.
does equip us to work some of these things out. So don't just accept defeat and say,
Yeah.
this is what they said. Oh, they say I have the diabetes. So, this is it.
Yeah.
No, there's
Yeah.
so much of what we are troubled with that's within our control. Much of it we have brought onto ourselves because of our poor, self-care habits.
Right.
Not relaxing enough, not, prioritizing, self-preservation then per se.
Yes.
Um, Not prioritizing, self-care and rest and proper relationships and boundaries, being able to say
Ooh.
no.
Right.
And
And no
all of
is a
those things
complete
brings.
sentence.
Yeah, yes. No is a complete sentence. And I've become the no girl. Like before it was like, yes, 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 yes. Now it's like, no, 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 no. So I have to tell myself sometimes, you can live a little, like,
Hmm.
because you
Yeah.
can go from one extreme to the next.
You
Like,
can, yeah, I was about to say,
yeah.
don't be too extreme, but you do have to make room for what you want,
Yes,
right? Saying
yes,
no to some things allows you to make room for what you want, and so that you can
yes,
pursue, what you want and or what's needed. Sometimes we need to say no so we can do what we're responsible for and be accountable for the
yes,
things that we need to be accountable to as well. So yeah,
for sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Oh wow, this is so good. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. You're definitely going to give us your information in just a moment. So those who may
Mhm.
have more questions for Heather, you want to figure out how to get in touch with Heather, you can absolutely do that. She's going to leave her information in the chat.
Yes,
Heather, if there was a summary that you had to leave a closing message for us tonight. Oh man, because we could do this all night, but
we
we're
sure
gonna we're
could.
gonna we're gonna wrap it up. What would be the closing message you have for us this evening?
Closing message is just that you are bigger than your circumstance.
Ooh,
Um, you're bigger. So whether it's, you know, you want to start a business, but this thing is stopping you from whatever that is.
mm-hmm,
You're bigger than that. You can find a way. Um,
mm-hmm.
you're sick with whatever condition, Hashimoto's or lupus or diabetes, or you just, overweight and just need to lose those 50 pounds or 10 pounds and you just can't figure it out. Or, whatever it is, you need to leave that job because it's chronically stressful and they're not paying you for your health. No matter what it is,
Right,
you are bigger than that circumstance. But you've got to just believe that there is a way, that there is a better way. And then looking, um, once you start believing that, like God just presents you with opportunity to make a change, you know?
yes,
And that's really it. Just change your mindset. Once,
yes,
just change your mindset and then your eyes will be opened up to a world of possibilities. I would never have dreamt that I'd be here today,
right,
a few years ago. It was not a possibility because I just felt
yeah,
so terrible. And
yeah,
I couldn't see past my circumstance. But
yeah,
now I can say there's life beyond suffering. And every day is not rosy, right?
right,
I'm still a normal human being. So I still get tired and I
yes,
still get winded and I still, get frustrated. And, if I do too much, I still do feel pain. But now I'm aware that,
right,
there's another way. I'm
yeah.
aware that there's another way. And you can change your circumstance, change the way you look at things, and your whole life will change.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. We have, oh gosh, we share so many of the same sentiments. And that's, one of the reasons when this came about and we had the conversation, the message, if you will, and you were like, yes, I want to get on. And I'm like, yes, like let's do it because your mindset is so important, right? And we have to choose, even if we don't feel like
Yes,
following through, we have to
yes,
make the conscious decision to choose our
for
next step
sure.
and just take the natural next step, right? Like we don't have to have paralysis by analysis because we're just taking the
Yes,
natural next step. We're not trying to tackle
yes,
the whole thing
yes,
right now, right? So just get it done and we're going to grow and we're going to evolve as we go. Thank you so much, Heather. Please tell all the great people how they can find you, reach out to you if they have more questions, if they're interested in your service. Where can they do
Yeah.
that?
Well, it's best to find me on Facebook. That's where I spend all my days. Um, Heather Bertrand is my handle on Facebook, or you can go to my business page at A Well Loved Body. So that's A Well Loved Body, because that's what we do now. We're loving ourselves, body, soul, and spirit,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And if you have any interest in or I'll contact you, just drop an emoji below, or say pick me or whatever, and then I'll reach out to you, and then we can have a chat and see what the next step is in getting
So
you to the optimal health that you desire. Um, all
love
right.
it. That is
Thank
so
you so much.
good. Thank
Yes.
you, Heather. Thank you so much. Again, can't say it enough for being here because this topic is a topic that absolutely needed to be shared. I'm sure we could do another component to this, break some things down a bit more as far as your practice even and how you help others. Get into some more detail about people are like, what is the coaching part? Like how do we do that? In the future we can talk about that and see if people want to
Yes,
start their new year, God willing. We
that's
we're
right.
all here and we can
Right.
show up to that. Start their new year, with your help. You can sign up now though. You don't have to wait, people. You don't have to
Like,
wait.
that's not wait. No, yeah, that's that
You don't
into
have to wait till then,
2021
right? Let's
healthy.
go into
Right.
2021 ready. So on
Yes.
that
Yes.
note, Heather is going to drop her links in the
Yes.
comments once the live ends. For
Yes.
those of you who are existing entrepreneurs and or aspiring, please go over and join the Facebook group Results Driven Strategies for Women Creatives and Entrepreneurs. Sorry, not sorry, guys. We've decided that it's going to be a women's thing because you know what we need more of? Women
More
lifting
woman.
women. And we need more of
That's right.
women talking about the challenges that women are having, especially right now in this hybrid life. This
Yes.
COVID thing has put hats on us that we can no longer sit down and compartmentalize.
Right, right.
So we are working together to figure things through. And right now we've been doing a lot of uplift. And I do Friday live Q&A. So if you've got a question, you can go in the group, drop it. I specifically ask those questions. I like to give direct answers versus general information, but we do the best we can, especially if no one has a specific question that they want to ask or maybe shy to do it. You can always drop a DM. If you are looking for accountability coaching for yourself, if you have, you got a new idea, it's super valuable, it's going to help serve others, but you have no idea what to do with it. You have no idea where to start. You're like, how in the world, how? That is when you can contact me for
Right,
accountability coaching, project management. We work through all the things, and you don't have to have it all to get started. Get it
right.
done, DONE, that's an acronym, and get moving, go forward. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We look forward to hearing from you next week. We are going to
Yes.
have Tara on with us, and she is going to be talking
Awesome.
about relationships being a core foundation of your business and networking. You don't want to miss that, you guys. You don't want to miss
Yes,
it.
yes,
Absolutely. Because we are doing a lot of opportunities right now with this, work from home and
yes.
with we're going into winter. Winter is coming, keep yourselves safe, stay positive, test negative, and we're
Yes.
out.
I
Thank
like
you,
that. That's
Heather.
awesome. Just like it. Oh my
Yes. Well,
goodness.
have a
Thank you,
great one.
Kawana. Thank you
You're
so much. You
welcome.
too.
Do you want to
Good
say
night.
something? You want to tell people bye bye for now?
Bye, Bailey. Love
Wave.
those lips.
Right, we've
Good
got our
night.
lips going. Good night.
Yes.